Greetings, everybody. In front of me, I have a special person again, and she's a repeat guest because she has a very deep and very special message for all of us that I would love for her to share with us. And she's Regeline Sabbat, also known as Gigi, and she's a motivational keynote speaker. She's a 2-time best-selling author of The Walk with Me and God First. She's also a domestic violence advocate, sexual assault advocate, breast cancer advocate, and human trafficking advocate, and also mental health advocate. So Gigi, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. It's an honor to be here today.
I am, today we're going to be talking about very special subject, and I'm so, it's not just honor, humble to even be able to touch this subject because it's very deep and very personal to you. And, like sometimes people that become the people they are because from the pain that they have experienced, but not everybody is using their pain and their negative experience from the past to become the person they are today. They may hide, they may, go under the influences of the alcohol or the drugs, but you have become that experience has made you the person you are today. Can you please tell us more about the subject of the why is a sexual assault advocate? What had drawn you to that?
Yes, ma'am. So when I was 8 years old, I was sexually assaulted by 2 individuals, and then that affected my social relationships and it affected my trust in others. And then from there, pretty much I took all of the precautions that you could possibly think of to avoid this from ever happening again in my life. I mean, any precaution you can think of, I took it. But unfortunately, just about 2 years ago, it happened again as an adult. I was taken by a group of individuals that I was out with, and it happened again. He sexually assaulted me. And the individuals that I was with, no one in the inner circle knew who he was. He worked for the company, but from a different state. And so after it happened again as an adult, I became numb to pain. But I realized something after that. I learned a lot after it happened the second time. And what I learned is that too often in our society, survivors are put into a box and labeled as the same. Everyone's the same, but they're not. No one who has gone through sexual assault is the same. Everyone has their own unique story. And what I found was that a correlation when it happens the second time is that you're not going to act the same, especially if this happens the second time. You're just not. I didn't act the same. I became numb to pain. And at the time I didn't understand why. But then looking back, the only thing I was sitting there thinking about when the officers were asking me questions was that I was sexually assaulted when I was 8. And it's a lot to think in right now, because when I'm thinking about that moment, I look back and I said, whoa, I just was going back to when I was 8 years old, but now I see why, because it's like that. It's that realization that you think something's not going to happen, but it did. So it puts you in shock mode. And at the time, the officer didn't understand. The officer didn't know that I was sexually assaulted when I was 8. So he was in my face asking me questions. And when he then saw the video afterwards, he saw the video from the venue. I'll never forget that call. He called me and he said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, okay. And then we talked, him and I spoke, because he was there in the facility. And then when him and I spoke, I pretty much told him I was sexually assaulted when I was 8 years old. He had no idea. So in that moment, we both realized something. No one is going to act the same, especially if this happens again for the second time. You're just not going to act the same. And one of the women who were in that room that day, she told me, "I'm so sorry for what you had to go through in that room with the male officer in your face like that." She said, "I'm so sorry." And here's the thing. I mean, you talk about being sexually assaulted, but then you talk about the verbal attacks that came after that, where when you feel as though you're supposed to be aided, I mean, it's a lot to sink in. But here's what I tell people. You have to stand strong no matter what. And my faith is what kept me moving forward no matter what. And I'll never forget what that woman said to me that day. She saw on my neck after she said, "I'm so sorry for what you went through in that room that day." She saw what was on my neck, and it was a cross. And she said to me, "I know why you're still standing right now."
Mm.
And I said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." And so here's the thing. After everything that happened, I reread the Bible again as an adult, and my relationship with God grew tremendously. I also got baptized again as an adult. And for me, it just was a lot that happened at once. I mean, prior to the being baptized again as an adult, I also am a survivor of domestic violence. So it was a lot that happened at once, a lot to take in. And it was life-changing. It was a very difficult moment for me in my life. And it took me to a place I never imagined I would go. And when something like that happens, you need to maintain a resilient mindset. If I did not maintain a resilient mindset, I would not be the woman I am today. But I have to give it to God, because with God, all things are possible. You know, Joshua 1:9 states, "Haven't I commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid or discouraged, for your Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And once folks understand that God is with you wherever you go, there's no giving up. And he spoke to me. When you get quiet, you can hear him. And he spoke to me and he said, "Never give up." And so I haven't given up, and I'm not giving up. I'm still moving forward. But I'm letting you know, if you're listening to this today, I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult, especially when something like sexual assault happens in your life. That's out of your control. I mean, again, you could take all the precautions that you want, but don't let that keep you from living your life. You need to get back up, because if you don't, you're going to live in fear. You're going to have anxiety, or you may even be led to depression. It may cause you to go into a deep depression, but you can avoid that. It's in your mindset. It's in your mindset. And so, of course, me being a sexual assault survivor from the time I was 8, and then coming across other people at the time, you hear and you see things of people, but they all have a similar pattern. They all go into a deep depression. They live in anxiety, or they live in fear. I said, I'm not going to that place. I'm not going to that place. But of course, anxiety was a part of my life for many years, because that just, when something traumatic like that happens, that's bound to happen, especially. So anxiety consumed a majority of my life. I shared that the other day on the Global Virtual Panel of Anxiety Survivors event for the first time, that sometimes a trigger can cause the anxiety without us even realizing it. But what a pattern is, and you tell somebody who hasn't been sexually assaulted, that they won't understand. They won't understand. They'll say, "But how can that cause that when it's so many years later and you're in this moment right now, but you're not being sexually assaulted?" It can happen. Mm-hmm. I'm a survivor, and I'm here to tell you it happens. It happened to me. And I've shared that before, and I'm not afraid to share that, because it can help someone else. But you don't have to let anxiety consume your life.
Gigi, what do you know now that you didn't know then? And how would that knowledge of, if you would have known that, would have helped you right now?
I would say I was living life, but I was an introverted leader. I love helping others. Naturally, that's just what I love to do. But after everything that happened, I'm now an ambiverted leader. And I'm able to express myself in a way that I've never been able to do so before. Even just being here and sharing this story the way I am now. You talk about how I was before. I can't tell you that I was able to do that, because again, anxiety had consumed my life. And I'm able to tell you now that the anxiety was rooted from being sexually assaulted when I was 8 years old. So when that happens, it puts you in a place of wondering and just of that worry. And that worry was from taking so much precautions. I took, again, I told you, I literally took all the precautions. So when you're constantly taking precautions, your mind, unbeknownst to you, gets to a point where it's like, what is happening here? What is happening? So there was some friction that I wasn't aware of. But after, one, again, almost losing my life in domestic violence, and then two, being sexually assaulted again, and then going to a place of being numb to pain, I literally got to a point where there was no other option but to just let go and let God. And I'm glad that I did, because once I did, I'm able to see the other side and I'm able to actually live. I'm living now more than I could have ever imagined, because I've let go and I let God. And it's so beautiful on this side. I don't want to go back to the other side. I don't want to go there, because now I know what I know. And this is the thing, never give up. No matter what, never give up. And I do want to share a poem with you if you have a moment here today.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So you tell me when, and then we can go from there, if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead, share the poem. We're all excited about that, Gigi.
Okay. So here we go. Walls surround me. That's all I see. All I want is to be free. I scream at the top of my lungs, God, please help me. The back of my mind wants to give up. Then my heart reminds me that I'm one of a kind. I feel closed in with nowhere to go. Then I remember the beauty of life is to grow. It doesn't matter if you grow slow. Growing is the purpose of life in everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, the color of your skin, your religion, your political views, the amount of money you make, the car you drive, how many friends you have, how many followers you have on social media, your job title, how tall or how short you are, your gender, your sexuality, your age, your fashion style, your body structure, the type of music you listen to, your family's culture, or anything else that our society's education system has altered our minds to focus on. Always remember, you are in control of your mind's reticular activating system. You focus on what you want to see, hear, and believe in. Therefore, growth is in everyone. Never give up. The light may seem dim right now, but all you need to do is wake up the reticular activating system in your mind, and you too will realize you are one of a kind. Never give up.
Amen, Gigi. I want to ask you a very probably hard question, or maybe like challenge you with this question, but I really want to know, what would you want to tell right now to any person who assaults the little girl or the woman out there? What would you want to say to them right now?
Keep going. Keep going, and don't ever get to a place of anxiety. And if you do, if anxiety, with unbeknownst to you, consumes your life, you can overcome it. And you don't have to live in a place of constantly taking precautions your entire life. There is a better tomorrow, and God is with you, again, wherever you go. And you can overcome being sexually assaulted. Sexually assault does not have to define you. It doesn't have to be it for you. And don't let it keep you down, because again, that was out of your control. Don't blame yourself. Too often, that's what I'm seeing, is individuals blaming themselves in our society. And it's so heartbreaking to see, because they think it's their fault. It's not your fault. If you're listening to this message today, it's not your fault. You are not what happens to you. You're not the trial. You're not the tribulation. You're not the challenge. Let go and let God. Because you can face this head on. Now, I will say face it. Face it. Because for so many years, as I'm speaking to you now and I'm looking back, I didn't face it. I didn't face it. And if it didn't happen the second time, I wouldn't be the woman that I am before you today. So again, face it early on, because there's an entire life. You're not truly living unless you face it. And when I say face it, that means you understand what happened to you, you're aware, and you release and let the emotions run through how they need to, so that you can overcome, you can go into full recovery. But until you do that, you're not living.
And Gigi, this is another one. There are the guys out there who really hurt women, who really hurt the little kids, who assault them sexually. What is your message to them right now?
The men that sexually assault individuals.
Yes. The one that hurt us, that hurt, women.
I would say everyone has a decision to make. Positive and negative. I mean, you have that choice if you're going to harm someone or not. I mean, you have a choice between evil and good. And God is the creator of all things. We are all children of God. And in that moment, if you're listening to this message today, if you sexually assaulted someone or you had a thought of that, I mean, it's just not right. It's not right. It's not right. You need to choose good. You need to choose better, and better decisions, wise choices. And again, that's not what God called us to do. God called us to be his servants, and we're children of God, and there's such a better life. And if you're listening to this today and you're saying, okay, something happened in your background that you may have saw, because oftentimes what I'm seeing is a pattern of folks who were sexually assaulted themselves, or they have a history in a family where they saw someone or something happen, or outside of their family, they witnessed something. Again, you need to be the chain breaker. I don't want to hear that. That's an excuse. That's an excuse. So if you're listening to me today, you hear this message, be the chain breaker. You don't have to let that pattern repeat itself. Patterns end with us, leaders in our community. You can become a leader just by one simple decision, one wise choice. And that's to do good. Do good in the world. Do good in the world. Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. When you see so much bad happening in this world, or you've had wrong done to you, you have a choice. You have a choice, and that choice is good, a positive decision. You can choose to be the change agent in our society. But when you choose evil, when you choose the same path as everyone else, it's just going to repeat itself and repeat itself and repeat itself. And if you're listening to this message today and somebody may have harmed you, remember how that felt. You really want someone to go through what you went through? I doubt it. The answer most likely is no. So again, it needs to end, and it needs to end now. Sexual assault needs to end now. And I would tell parents, be cautious of who you leave your children around, and be aware of where your children are at all times. I know for me, when I have my children, there it goes, the precautions, right? But because precautions consume a majority of my life, yes, I'm going to take precautions, but in a healthy way.
Yes.
One that doesn't affect my children the way that it did me. And I'm going to make sure that they're safe.
Yes, today's message was the be a chain breaker and try to do good in this world. We need a good doers in this world. We are have a scarcity of that in the world right now. It's deficit right now. So please be a chain breaker out there and try to do good. Thank you so much, Gigi, for this powerful message, for the pain from your past that you can, take it and do something positive to change every life in this world. And this is going to go so far. I'm so proud of you, proud that you are trying to come out with this message and share with the world and be the advocate for every person out there who have been in pain, who have been assaulted sexually and needs your help. Thank you so much, Gigi, for being with us.
You're welcome.